Namaste. Welcome to this new session. We have been considering the antarayas, which are said to be countered by even Ishwar Pranidhana. In case of a yogi, they are only countered by Ishwar Pranidhana. In case of you and me, they are also countered by Ishwar Pranidhana. We have to take other measures as well as Ishwar Pranidhana would come as a great bounty. So we were considering Samshaya, the antaraya after Vyadhi and Sthana is Samshaya. And therein we were looking into Nyaya Darshana, Nyaya Sutra 1.1.23, which mentioned the 5 causes as to why Samshaya can rise in the mind. And that's the analysis that you get in philosophical process. So, the first one was samana dharma upalabdhi. Samana dharma upalabdhi. When there are two things and there is similarity, apparent similarity, that is the basis for doubt. In case of real flower and artificial flower. So if artificial flower is ditto looking like natural flower, then doubt comes up in the mind whether this is true or that is true, whether this is natural or that is natural, whether this is artificial or that is artificial. So many times such kind of doubt is created by excellent artists. They draw something and then it appears to be very true, as if it is a true thing, but it is actually a pictorial thing. So, samana dharma upalabdhi. So, when there is similarity in major factors of our perception, so that samana dharma upalabdhi is one reason why there is doubt. Then aneka dharma upalabdhi. Similarly, when one and the same thing shows many characteristics, then we start developing doubt. Is it really this or it is not this? Because for perception, many facets start appearing, and therefore we have little confusion whether this is really real or this is virtually real or untrue even. So that is aneka dharma upalabdhi. Then comes vripratipatti. Vripratipatti means aprapti, or a kind of anupalabdhi. When you are not able to get the perception of a thing, when the thing is subtle or not phenomenal, but there is conspicuity, then also the doubt comes up. Because it's not a matter of a strong perception, and therefore you are not able to get the characteristics for your perception, and therefore you get doubt in the mind. Is it really this or it is not that? So that is vripratipatti. And then comes the avyavastha of upalabdhi. So when the graspable or apparent things, when you are not able to receive them, say due to poor light, you are not able to see them clearly. So there is avyavastha, there is some kind of mismanagement whereby your perceptions are not clear, you are not able to get say clear sound or clear vision when it's not very clear. then also the doubt comes up. Or avyavastha of anupalabdhi. So, what is not there? Now, that is not really cognized because of conspicuity, lack of clarity. So, that is avyavastha, mismanaged, kind of exclusive aspects. What is excluded there, that is not really clear. So, when that is also not clear, inclusive aspects mismanaged and exclusive or excluded aspects mismanaged, they also create a kind of anupalabdhi, samshaya. So these are the 5 causes why samshaya comes up. And this is a very interesting analysis that you get in Sankhya Darshanam and in Sankhya Sutra of Gautama. So in brief, samana dharma upapatti, aneka dharma upapatti, vripratipatti, upalabdhi avyavastha, anupalabdhi avyavastha. So you also come across examples given to substantiate these factors here as to how they create doubt in the mind or how they have potentials for doubts. Say, the post and man. Now, this is a kind of illusion that we come across. Actually, it is a post, and we mistake it to mind. And the doubt comes: is it really a man or a post? So, because there is similarity between a post, which is vertical and oblong, and a human being, a standing human being also. So, therefore, we cannot really be decisive, and the doubt comes up in the mind. So, that is samana dharma upapatti. So, in aneka dharma upalabdhi, many characteristics are surfacing, and that's why you get a kind of doubt: is it really this or is it not this? Then comes the vripratipatti, means in one and the same object you get opposite knowledge. Like this is black and this is white. Now then you get a doubt in your mind: is it really white or it is black? Or say black and navy blue. So from a distance, many times you really cannot distinguish. So what is absent there is not really perceived for some reason. So that's called vripratipatti. Particularly in spiritual realm, there are some philosophers who say Atma is existent, Atma is, and some say Atma is not. The self is and self is not. And then it creates a doubt in the person who hears to these contradictions. So it's an interesting thing anyway that Samshaya has been analyzed. Now moving to next point, the Samshaya is not merely antaraya. It is not merely an obstruction. We are coming to with reference to yoga. The Samshaya is not merely an obstruction, impediment, hurdle, but many times Samshaya will wean you away from right path. So it can be also that much devastating that if you doubt in what you are doing, say, as a spiritual pursuit, then it is not that you are oscillating. Many times it weans you away, and then you are deprived of virtue. So the sat pravrutti slips away, or you slip away from sat pravrutti because of the worm of doubt getting into your mind. And then when you are away from sat pravrutti, invariably you are going to slip into asat pravrutti. So it can be really heartbreaking sometimes. The point is that Samshaya doesn't merely wean you away from yoga, but it will land you in bang opposite materialism. That you will land into stark materialism, and you will be landing into vicious path. So if you notice here, between vyadhi, stya, samshaya, you will admit that samshaya is stronger than vyadhi and stronger than stya, because such thing doesn't seem probable in vyadhi or anyone in stya. Here you are going to take a right about turn, possibly a right about turn, and land into non-yoga or un-yoga perhaps. You can be un-yogic, bang opposite to yoga. And therefore this is to be noted here, that how there is a difference between vyadhi and samshaya and stya and samshaya in this particular perspective. Vyadhi and stya have, they are one-faced obstacles. They are one-faced obstacles, single-faced obstacles, while samshaya, it can take you into viyoga of yoga. Yoga divorced. You divorcing from yoga. And you getting into bang opposite of yoga. What is diametrically opposite is wickedity, viciousness. It can take you into that. You will be caught into the gravity of what is diametrically opposite of yoga, rather than merely giving up yoga. By vyadhi, you might give up yoga. Too much tormented by vyadhi, maybe you will give up yoga. Or stya even. If it is too strong a stya, then perhaps you will be weaned away. Now, samshaya is something that it merely doesn't wean you away, but it can draw you into opposite fold, opposite gravity. So it is two-faced, double-faced kind of antaraya, and this must be noted. Now with this reference, we would certainly recall a verse from Bhagavad Gita 4.40, 4th chapter, 40th verse. So here Bhagwan Krishna says, Agnyascha ashraddhadhanascha samshayatma vinashyati na ayam lokaha asti na paraha na sukham samshayatmana. It is agnya, that means ignorant people, and those who are without shraddha, without dedication. These people can be easily infected by samshaya. Samshaya will get quickly into them. And then samshayatma vinashyati. And it will really prove doom for the person. Samshaya can be so devastating that it can prove doom to a person. Na ayam lokaha asti na paraha na sukham samshayatmanaha. He will neither get sukham here nor hereafter. So what lesson we get here is that avyavastha and shraddha rahityam means we are prone to get infected by Samshaya. So if we want to prevent Samshaya, this obstacle touching us or engulfing us, we need to overcome such conditions, such as avyavastha. That way we should not be ignorant too long about yoga. And shraddha rahityam. So if the shraddha is weak, the doubt can easily infect you. But if your shraddha is strong, you are immune to getting any samshaya. So this is what we have to learn here from the advice of Bhagavad Gita, that we have to take care to see that we do not remain ignorant about yoga too long, because we are in the habit of practicing yoga for years and years and years and decades and decades and decades. But still there is ignorance about what yoga is, and this should not be allowed too long. Initially, if you are not really being knowledgeable in yoga, no problem. But if you are too long like that, then it will definitely allow entry to samshaya into you. So also we must see that the shraddha is reinforced. Our dedication in the subject of yoga, our practices, the shraddha must be also strengthened and reinforced, so that we are proof against doubt. The doubt might try to inflict us, but we will be developing immunity to samshayam. This is very important. So that's the advice that we have to see, that we are not in avyavastha, non-knowers of yoga, ignorant of yoga, illiterate about yoga, and also not having shraddha, ashraddha. So that's what we have to take a lesson while we are considering the samshaya. Misconceptions about yoga. We have knowledge of yoga, but more often it is misconception, and then you are prone to get infection of samshaya, which can be even devastating. Then it could be very strong infection. So ayatartha jnana, we have knowledge, don't be satisfied with it. So see that it is tested, that whether our knowledge is proper or improper. So many times we get certain impressions and we think we have knowledge about it, but then it is illusory knowledge. So there must be disillusionment. So we must always look for disillusionments and not be complacent that we have knowledge of yoga. The knowledge could be faulty, knowledge could be illusory, and therefore we should not allow the illusions stay too long. So we must be careful, testing, verifying, testifying our knowledge every time. Whatever knowledge we have, we must see that it is gotten verified and testified, so that there is no element of illusion or ayathartha jnana. Yathartha jnana will only counter samshaya. Merely jnana won't. It should be yathartha jnana. Merely knowledge is not going to counter. Proper knowledge, sufficient knowledge, proper knowledge. So we must always take care here that if we have knowledge, it must be tested. There must be scrutiny, there must be every kind of test. We may have to get it verified from the authorities in the subject and make sure that we have proper knowledge and sufficient knowledge. So yathartha jnanam can only counter doubt, or it can make you proof against doubt, not merely jnana. So don't mistake between jnana and yathartha jnana. And you should know that we must opt for yathartha jnana rather than merely jnana. And here, according to Bhagavad Gita, he says, if you are caught in doubt, you will neither have laukika sukham nor paralaukika sukham. That is, you will not have composure and happiness here and hereafter as well. So it is definitely going to be devastating. The doubt is always devastating. So, to be free from doubt is therefore one of the characteristics of moksha or parama purushartha. If samshayatma vinashyati is the statement here, then if you don't have doubt, you should know that it is quite amrutatva. I recall another verse from Mahabharata, Vanaparva, chapter 200 and verse 112. Na ayam loko asti na parona sukham samshayatmanah uchur jnana vido vruddha pratyayo moksha lakshanam. So, it tells us how samshaya can be devastating. If somebody is engulfed by doubts, it is really going to give you a lot of restlessness. No one is ever comfortable. No one can ever be comfortable with doubt in mind. Doubt can never give you any comfort whatsoever. And therefore you will be restless. You will be in discomfiture. You will be uncomfortable. So understand how samshaya is quite dangerous, devastating. And as I said, if you are free from doubt, if you don't have any doubt, or if you are proof, then that's a moksha lakshanam. And here, as Mahabharata has said about that in the verse that we considered just now, but it is testified by Mundaka Upanishad 2.2.8. Bhidyate vrudaya granthi chidyante sarva samshayaha kshiyante cha asya karmani tasmin drushte paravare. So one sees the Supreme when bhidyate vrudaya granthi, when the vrudaya granthis, the doubts in our heart are cut asunder and broken. We must be having no doubts. Otherwise, we have lots of knots in our ego center, in our heart center, and in our passion center. We have it's a very knotty complex. When I say knotty complex, in both the sense of the term, N-A-U-G-H-T-Y and K-N-O-T-T-Y. So these knots are really those which are creating bondage in us. They are the cause of bondage. Therefore, bhidyante vrudaya granthi is what Mundaka Upanishad says. That these knots in the heart must be loosened and opened out. And then chidyante sarva samshayaha. So when will this happen? When you see the Supreme, when you realize the reality, the Supreme reality, this is what happens. That your knots of the heart are all loosened and broken open. And so also all doubts are totally cut into pieces. And therefore, also, kshiyante cha asya karmani tasmin drushte paravare. So when the Supreme is realized, these three things happen, and one of those is the doubt. Doubt itself is devastated. So what are the three things by Supreme realization, self-knowledge and Supreme realization, revelation, is vrudaya granthis are pierced and they are opened out. And all doubts are devastated, and all karmas are totally attenuated, destroyed, That's the moksha. So for moksha, the three components are mentioned in Mundaka Shruti. And one of those is Samshaya. The Samshaya to be devastated. Samshaya to be banished from mind. So that's why Mahabharata in its verse says, and wise people have said, that the doubt can be devastating your life, and end of doubt will give you liberation. End of whatsoever doubt, end of doubt absolutely means you are liberated. So this happens after what is called as Atma Sakshatkar, Paramatma Sakshatkar, Bhagavad Sakshatkar, Ishwar Sakshatkar. Because though all these are names of supreme reality, ultimate reality. So that's how we have seen doubt as an obstacle, and how formidable force it is. By the by, let me also tell you that doubt is also considered as a component in knowledge process. And Naiyayikas give us this kind of revelation. Now that the doubt in knowledge process is of the kind of jignasa. You have inquisitiveness. When you are not sure whether it is this or it is not, it is that, so you start getting inquisitiveness. Let me be inquisitive, have inquiry. And somewhere behind the psychodynamics of inquiry or inquisitive mind, there will be a component called of the nature of doubt. Then that doubt becomes a stepping stone for your knowledge. So that's another connotation toward samshaya in epistemology. If you do not have doubt at all anywhere about anything, then you will not have pursuit of knowledge. So little doubt must come in. So this is like the salt coming in our eateries, eatable things. If the salt is not at all there, then it is tasteless. So when it comes in discrete proportion, then it becomes lavanya of the food that accords beauty to the food. That's why it is called lavanam. The word coming from lavanya. Beauty of all eatables, the salt comes so importantly there. But anyway, that's only an incidental factor that came to my mind, I told you. But that really should not be called doubt, because when it is a component of inquisitiveness, that means lack of clarity. With lack of clarity only you will have a knowledge pursuit. If you don't have lack of clarity, then you will not make any knowledge pursuit. So that is like the salt quantum coming in our all eatable things that we eat, which are not sweets but other than sweets. The salt must come in there in some minute quantity. So with that, I think enough has been said about samshaya. Now we come to the next antaraya, which is pramada. Pramada is, in simple words, heedlessness, carelessness, a casual approach. When you are approaching yoga very casually, it amounts to pramada. Bhashyakar here says, pramadaha samadhi sadhananam abhavanam. Lack of affinity to all the practices. If we do not have affinity for the practice aspects, practice factors, then naturally you will compromise. Oh, let me miss it today. You will opt for something else also. So you will compromise yoga for something else. Because in life we have so many things to do. Now, if you have so many things to do, if there is no priority to yoga, then it is uh, easily victimized. So, lack of priority, heedlessness, carelessness is to be understood here under pramada. So that's he says abhavanam, not really having heart for it. So if you don't have heart for your practices of yoga, then it is pramada. Or you lose your heart. You had the heart to start with, you had for some years, but for some reason slowly the heart has withdrawn. The heart has got engagement somewhere else. So this is what is pramada. That sometimes you have been practicing for 2, 3, 4, or 8, 10, 12 years, 15 years, 20 years. But then some other engagement comes to your heart. Heart means your affiliation with the subject and affinity to the subject of yoga. So it can be getting altered, alternated, etc. And there can be a shift of gravity of the heart. So the heart starts swaying towards some other things. What happens to yoga is that it is pramadita. So it can happen. So if you are very interested in yoga and you are doing with a lot of interest and fervor, don't think that that is be all and end all. In life you will come across so many things, so many phases, so many things in your life that maybe your heart is slowly gravitating towards something else. When it gravitates towards something else, then what happens to yoga is it becomes pramadita. There is a pramada because you have lost some bhavana. So it's a wonderful expression, abhavanam. So when you don't have priority, or when you don't have that emotions, or when you are not really disposed, when you are not having your heart into yoga, then what happens is pramada. It can slip away. You might give up yoga. Yoga will get away from you. You will get away from yoga. So therefore you must not allow abhavanam in your heart. Then the priority will continue to stay there. And therefore, when you have this abhavanam, when you have this carelessness, heedlessness, you start developing neglectful attitude. And you become careless. The carelessness comes up. And you lose the utsaham. Utsaha has dwindled. Naturally, you will know what will happen to your yoga. So therefore it is an obstacle. I recall Vachaspati Mishra saying here, abhavanam akaranam tatra aprayatnaha. So want of resort to the means, and then absence of these means, and then therefore want of effort. There will be a want of effort on your part. The moment you have not taken care of any pramada getting into you, because pramada also can be infection. Like you suddenly start developing bad company of bad people, company of bad things. Then what happens? Then your effort, there is want of effort here gradually. So gradually you become casual about your yoga. And then slowly you just separate yourself from yoga, and yoga is separated from you. So the want of effort would be there. If there is a want of effort, you should immediately take a precaution that I have been infected by pramada, and necessary measures should be taken in that case. Because of dynamics of life, it can happen. The priorities will change. So we have to take care, and we should be very vigilant about it, that some other priority doesn't score over our priority over yoga. Otherwise, our yoga will suffer with our pramada. So, pramada is abhavanam and therefore ananusandhanam. This is what Vijnana Bhikshu says in his Yoga Vartika. Ananusandhanam. We lose the advertence, we lose the intent. So lack of enthusiasm in practice of yoga can occur because of the waves in our mundanity ocean. So with the waves of mundanity, our enthusiasm can dwindle, and that would be pramada. Then bhoja vritti, pramadaha, ananusthana shilata. We are supposed to be in yoga anusthana. Anushtanam is suggested here. Yoganga anushtanam is suggested by Patanjali. But when there is pramada, what will happen? Ananushtanam. Anushtanam, dwindling, going away, turning its back. Or we turn our back to anushtanam. So he says, pramadaha ananusthana shilata samadhi sadhaneshu audasinyam. Because there is audasinya. You lose the fervor, you lose the intent. So, rather than having heart, you start developing indifference towards yoga. So when the indifference infection comes in, you should know that this is again an obstacle with which I should be careful. Because once the audasinyam comes in your practices, when you start developing indifference to your practices, which you were doing quite fervently and quite with enthusiasm, then you should know that a pramada infection has got in. So you lose the disposition or swabhava for yoga sadhana, samadhi sadhana, yoga anushtanam. The pramada, we have been alerted by pramada by various commentators, seeing that the pramada is also quite a strong infection. Pramadaha samadhi sadhananam ananusandhana rupam abhavanam. So this is by Nagesha Bhatta in his Chaya Vritti, who has almost followed Vijnana Bhikshu. So he comments on abhavanam of Vyasa and reiterates that there will be ananusandhanam, ananusandhana rupam. This will be of the nature of ananusandhanam. Pramada will be of the nature of ananusandhanam. So one should be beware of pramada. So just making a commentary that it is carelessness and callousness, we are not really catching its magnitude, and that's why it is important to look into these commentaries. They tell us much more about it, and therefore we will be much more alert to see that the pramada doesn't come in close proximity to us. Then in Lakhu Vritti, Nagoji Bhatta says, how does this pramada appear in the pathology? He gives the pathology. How pramada has come in can be identified. Shamadhi bhavana abhavaha. See, yoga has to be done with shama dhamma. Shat sampati, shama dhamma titiksha uparati jnana vairagya shanti samadhan. So at some point in time we considered the shat sampattis with which yoga has to be done or pursued. Now abhavaha, shamadhi bhavana abhavaha. Shama adi means shama damadi. Shama damadi means shama dhamma titiksha uparati jnana vairagya shanti samadhan. So when the shama dhamma is seen dwindling, So it is something that is aspect of clinical pathology of one's chitta. And then you should know that the pramada is gotten in. So also, pramadaha anavadhanam is the commentary of Bhava Ganesha in his Yoga Deepika. Anavadhanam, that means you lose focus, you lose attention, you lose advertence, you lose intent. Then Mani Prabhakara, Yoganga Anunushtanam Pramadaha. Anushtanam aspect, the reverence, usual reverence with which you do yoga, even if that has dwindled 5-10%, 2-3%, you should know that the pramada has got in. So when your intent has got discounted, your fervor, your enthusiasm has got discounted, you should infer that the pramada has got in. Yoga Sudhakara of Sadashivendra Saraswati, he says, Ahimsa satyadi sadhananam abhavanam pramadaha. So he clarifies further, Ahimsa satyadi sadhana. Ahimsadi yamas, shauchadi niyamas, asana pranayamadi, bhirangas, and then dharana dhyanadi antarangas. Abhavanam, little withdrawal in the heart. The heart has withdrawn from these yogic practices. In broadly speaking, the heart has withdrawn from satsanga, sadhana sangha, shastra sangha, even marginally. And then satvik ahar vihar, achar vichar, even marginally. And even yajna dana tapa principle, even marginally, you should know that you are infected by pramada. So the little pathology of pramada you come across in the various commentaries by the commentators on yoga, classical commentators on yoga. So you will understand the potency of this pramada. By just literal translation, you will not understand the potency of pramada. Now, another thing to be identified here, that the Yoga Mahatmya, you are convinced of Yoga Mahatmya, you are convinced how great is yoga. And there is no discounting there. But on account of tamoguna, rajoguna coming in, you start developing heedlessness. It is not that you have lost your conviction that yoga is the best thing in the world. Yet, Rajatamogunas finding an entry means the heedlessness will come up, pramada will come up. So you start encouraging callousness, unknowingly also, and carelessness. And therefore, ananusthana happens. Absence of anusthana happens. So the ethos, you lose the ethos in your practice. It gets gradually eclipsed. The ethos behind your practice slowly gets eclipsed. Now, if you are really more sensitive, you will realize that pramada is stronger force than samshaya. Pramada is stronger because so far we considered how samshaya was stronger compared to vyadhi stya. Now pramada, if you really go into it, understand what really pramada is, then you will realize that it is greater foe, greater force, greater antagonizer, greater obstacle than even samshaya. Because by pramada, you will lose the sat pravrutti. You will lose your sat pravrutti, means your good conduct. And in adhyatma, spirituality, the pramada is identified as a very, very, very strong demon that you would be countering. So much so that pramada has been declared as atmanasha. It is self-destructive. Pramada is disclosed or declared as a self-destructive force. Atmanasha. Samshayatma vinashyati. So similarly, pramada can be so devastating. In Mahabharatam, I recall, in Sanat Sujatiya Parva, which comes in Udyoga Parva. It is Upaparva in Udyoga Parva. It says pramada itself is your death. Pramada itself is your self-annihilation. And apramada, absence of pramada, opposite of pramada, is amrutatvam. It is immortal. So pramada will be a killer. It will be self-killer. It will kill you. You yourself will be killed by your own pramada. So pramada is almost a death in paramartha. And apramada is amrutatvam. So the verse in Udyoga Parva, pramadam vai mrutyumaham bravimi tatha apramadam amrutatvam bravimi. So he declares, the sage declares, the seer declares, pramadam vai mrutyum. I declare that pramada is mrutyu. I declare that apramada is immortal or immortality, amrutatvam. So that much is dreadening the pramada is. Mundaka Upanishad also has a statement to this effect. Nacha pramadat tapaso, etc., etc. That you will not attain Atma just because of the pramada. So that's how the pramada is actually a very dreadening force, and that should be understood. And this pramada can chemically find way to get in when you do not take care of any rajoguna coming in. You are giving free entry to rajoguna, free entry to tamoguna, then pramada can come in. So also biochemically, if you do not counter kapha vikara and vata vikara, pitta vikara, if you do not take care of vata pitta kapha getting flared up, the pramada will certainly find a huge gate to enter your psyche. So in pramada you should see that there is rajatama guna as coming in big way, and sattva guna slowly starts losing even trace. Then it will be devastating. So I recall Vachaspati Mishra telling us here, Kayasya gurutvam kafadina chittasya gurutvam tapasa. So by kafadi, vata pitta kapha and tamoguna, the chitta will become heavier, in the sense inert. And when it becomes inert, the pramada gets easy entry, and other obstacles also get easy entry, vyadhi, stya, samshaya. So that is actually alasya, the heaviness in chitta. Alasyam chittasya gurutvat apravrutti is what Mani Prabhakar says, who is following Tattva Vaisharadi. So we should take care in all aspects of our life so that vata pitta kapha, the imbalance is not encouraged, and rajatama gunas do not miss any scrutiny. When you are having a strong scrutiny about rajatama gunas, and then naturally the pramada will be kept at bay. So also these biochemical changes can also bring in vyadhi, stya, etc. So that is about the pramada. And pramada is also, you can understand, it can also invite alasyam in you. When there is a pramada, the alasya comes in, or when you have alasya, pramada comes in. So this relationship also between alasya and pramadam should be understood. Because of pramada, alasya will have open gate, or because of alasya already gotten in, pramada will also have open gate. आलस्यम ही मनुष्याणाम शरीरस्थो महारिपुः नास्ति उद्यम समो बंधु कृत्वायम न अवसीदति. This is what Niti Shataka, one of the wonderful texts called Niti Shataka of Bhartruhari, tells us about this. So understand that these are brothers. Alasya and Pramada, they are brothers in one sense. So the Niti Shataka, Bhartruhari says, there is no foe stronger than alasya within us, and there is no friend like udyogam. So we must see that we are udyogi and not engulfed by alasyam. So we have considered vyadhi, stya, samshaya, pramada. So with this, we will end the lesson today, and in the next lesson we will go to next obstacle in the form of avirati. But enough for the time being. Namaskar.